Welcome back to the Break Time podcast, where we ring the bell on issues affecting the youth today. Today, we're tackling one of the most rampant activities affecting the youth today. I'm your host, Adrian Murage, and luckily for us, today we have Dr. Njoki Fernandes, a doctor and a mother, to help us dive deeper into the matter. So, welcome, Dr. Fernandes.
Thank you very much, and I'm very happy to be here today.
Okay, let's jump right into it. So, for our audience who might not know what vaping is, what is vaping?
So, vaping is this new trend where the person inhales a substance that has been vaporized through a heating device. So that vapor is what they inhale. And as opposed to smoking where you burn tobacco. So there's this device that is in a bottle and is heated in a heating substance, and that is what now is inhaled. Now, this vapor, so-called, has got nicotine. And then it has also flavorings, which is what really attracts the people because the flavorings are very attractive. And then sometimes heavy metals and other substances that create now the vapor. So vaping is actually a form of sophisticated smoking.
Okay. So you've mentioned smoking, obviously, and as a doctor, I'm not condoning either, but like, would you say it's better or worse than smoking?
There's that impression that is created that vaping is safer or better than smoking, but the impression is that vaping is actually posher, if there's anything like that, than smoking. But the truth of the matter is that in both cases, you are inhaling nicotine. And the problem with vaping, unfortunately, is that number one, because the industry is unregulated, we do not have regulation around the manufacture of these devices. They have found their way into the country, and somehow there's not quite the Ministry of Health and all these people are not regulating vaping. So we're not controlling the amount of nicotine that goes into the vape. And the other added substances, so there can be adulteration to give you that kick, that high. And so you find that vaping is highly addictive. And the people who vape, get highly addicted to the nicotine. And then what happens when you cannot afford the vaping because it's more expensive than cigarettes? Then you find yourself going back to traditional smoking because you're still able to get the nicotine. So it's a vicious circle. You start with one and you end up with the other.
You mentioned adulteration. What's adulteration?
Adulteration is where you add other products that are not necessarily safe to the primary product. The effect is to give you a better kick. So like now they'll add more nicotine. So you find maybe it's supposed to be 0.25% nicotine per 100 ml. So they'll put 5%. But you see, nobody is checking. But then that extra dose of nicotine is more harmful to the person who is vaping. But these young people don't know that. They just find that they're getting sick. And maybe at this point, then I can talk about the side effects of this vaping. The vapor that you inhale causes irritation to the lungs because the vapor goes and sits in the lung, and the lung has no way of getting rid of that vapor. So you get a chronic irritation. People get like asthma-like symptoms. And people who are asthmatic or have lung disease really suffer. I know there are very many people who suffered during COVID because they were vaping and then they got COVID and their lungs could not take the extra pressure. So there's lung irritation, and you can even get lung scarring. Now, nicotine in itself is a toxic substance. So it causes your heart to race faster. It causes an increase in your blood pressure. It makes you agitated. It makes you sweat. But most importantly, nicotine is a very addictive substance. It is actually more addictive than heroin and cocaine. So there is no way that vaping can be safe.
Okay. So the whole packaging of vaping being like harmless, like people my age, I'm 17, people my age do it as well. The whole packaging of it being harmless, it's false.
It's unfortunate, but you see, these guys are making money. So they're making money by false advertising, and there's nobody to verify the claims. You realize that in the alcohol industry, the mainstream alcohol industry, the beer manufacturing and the whiskeys, they operate under some form of strict regulation, and there's strict control around their marketing, around their packaging, and where these alcoholic drinks can be sold, and even the time you realize that in our country, bars don't open before 10. Even in the supermarket, you cannot buy alcohol before 10 in the morning. So there's some form of regulation. But these vaping substances are just sold anywhere and everywhere. And the marketing hype is just to promote sales, unfortunately, but it's not safe. It's not true.
So obviously you're speaking about regulation, and since it's a drug, the minimum regulation must be, is it like, according to the law, is it accessible to people under the age of 18? Is it easily accessible to them?
Right now, unfortunately, it is, because I don't even think NACADA have a radar on vaping at the moment. I would challenge them to really do a deep dive into the vaping industry. So it's available to anyone and everyone. Nobody checks. And so you find very young people, even from the age of 16, 15, and you see many people start vaping when they go to social functions. You go to a party, even in a friend's house, and people are vaping and they pass it around, whatever. Before you know it, you're hooked onto this substance, and it becomes a regular part. And you see, it's discreet. It's not like a cigarette. It doesn't have a smell. So many young people are vaping for very long before even their parents discover what they're actually doing.
You're mentioning young people. You keep mentioning young people. Obviously, you're a mother yourself. And what have you done to prevent this from happening in your house?
So I have four children of vaping age, to speak. And unfortunately, there's not much you can do to stop them. And like I told you, many of these times they do it in secret. You won't even know that they're vaping unless now you start getting the symptoms. You find a child who's constantly coughing. You know, the cough is not going away. Because remember, it has the way it's done, the smell is disguised, not like the standard smoking. But the child is going to get that chronic cough, and they're getting agitated, they're getting excitable. But what you do is you give a lot of information. A lot. I'm always sending them reels about vaping, videos. Whether they watch them or not is a different conversation. But and explaining to them that, this is the age where you maximize the body that God has given you. You're so young. Use your body to sports and to sing. If you damage your lungs now, you will not live to be more than 50, 60, because unfortunately these effects now you start feeling them later on in life. And I encourage them to share these videos with their friends. I engage in podcasts like this one. We have engagements with parents, just to keep sending the message across. And you realize many people start vaping without even reading about it. By the time they're going to research, they're already hooked. It should be the other way around. Even if you want to try vaping, you feel you're inspired to do it, at least do some reading about it. Many times you will be discouraged by the information you find.
These young people, how are they getting into vaping? How do they end up starting vaping?
Like I mentioned, they'll go to a party and there will be their peers and the vape is being passed around. And they don't know what it is. And of course, peer pressure, they're told to try. Many of the times it is not intentional. They just find themselves in a social situation and they try. Then the next thing you know, then you're hooked on the substance.
And as a doctor, what are the effects you're seeing on people's health, people's lifespan because of vaping? Or do you have any particular case?
You find that these people develop a cough that does not go away. Remember, I told you that the vape irritates the lungs. So there's that constant coughing. Then there's lung scarring. These people get scarring of the lungs, also depending on how much you're vaping. And then eventually you can get what is called chronic pulmonary airway disease, COPD, and some people end up becoming oxygen dependent. And then many of them now end up escalating to standard cigarette smoking with all its negative effects. Nicotine addiction also can lead to nicotine poisoning. And if you read literature, there are actually young people who have died from nicotine overdose and poisoning. So it's happening because you can't tell you're overdoing it and you just keep doing it until your heart get a cardiac arrest and your heart stops.
For these people who are vaping, do you have any advice, or do you have any let's just use advice. Do you have any advice of how they can work on stopping to vape if they're trying to stop but they can't?
The most important thing I'd like to tell them is that someone is making money at the expense of your health. Someone is making money from you, and at the same point, they're making you sick. So it's not a good thing. The second thing I'd encourage them is to read a lot about the side effects of the vaping with an open mind. And then 3, seek help, because like I told you, nicotine addiction is one of the most difficult addictions to get out of. But there are solutions, both psychological solutions, psychosocial solutions, and also medical solutions that can be used to help someone withdraw from nicotine use. But you have to decide that, okay, it was a good season while it lasted, but I need to get back my health, but I need to stop vaping. And then talk to your friends so that they can also stop doing it.
Okay. So, Dr. Fernandes, thank you for coming onto our podcast today. Thank you for watching the Break Time podcast. Thank you, Doctor, for coming. And moral of the story, don't vape.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.